Welcome to Making Your Miles Count Production, an educational program to all Canadian lease owner-operators with your host, Robert Scaper.
Welcome to our podcast today. We have Peter Funk and Dan Scaper. Anyway, we wanted to go over an article that just came out by Jim Park. And Jim Park, actually, I have personal ties to Jim Park. He doesn't know me, but I know him. He wrote an article about 25 years ago introducing non-taxable benefits, and basically saying that people should incorporate and use non-taxable benefits rather than the TL2 simplified method, which is the foundation of our entire accounting firm, the Making Your Miles Count accounting firm. So it was his initial article that said, hey, wait a minute, I got to research this and I got to find out whether this is true. Because if it is true, it'll save the independent operator industry thousands and thousands of dollars, potentially millions of dollars, the whole entire industry. And that's what got me going into the research on it. And it took me about 2 years of part-time study and research to find out all of the rules associated, both in the income tax as well as in the GST Act, and how they interlink together. To be able to utilize non-taxable benefit for the independent operator. Now, great thing about non-taxable benefits is it works great for everybody in Canada, but it really, really, really works fantastic for truckers. And by truckers, I mean independent operators, because independent operators are in travel status 22 days in a month, and so to utilize a fantastic tax opportunity when the majority of your days on the road, or majority of your days in a month, are utilizing it. That's what it doesn't exaggerate it. It just makes it as unbelievably efficient as any other system by far. And that's what saves an operator currently today is about $12,000 a year in taxes. Incidentally, when my book came out in 2007, the amount of tax savings per year was $7,600. So you actually, as time goes on, the difference between the TL2 simplified method and the non-taxable benefits actually gets bigger and bigger. That's primarily because the TL2 doesn't go up much at all, and non-taxable benefits goes up a couple times a year, and it just gets better and better in that regard. So, I for sure owe Jim Park a coffee for sure. At the very
coffee.
Least. Yeah. Anyway, but Jim Park just came out with an article in Truck News, and that article basically was talking about the 2027 brand new trucks that are coming out, and based on the new EPA standards and the like, it's very difficult to nail down exactly how much the increase per truck is going to be, but it's anywhere from $20,000 to $35,000 more for one truck. So that's about anywhere from a very low of 10 to 15 or maybe even 18% raise in the maybe not 18. It's 10 to 15% increase in the price, which grossly outstrips inflation and the like, and that'll make pretty much every new truck for sure be over the $200,000, sometimes even $220,000.
$250,000.
Yeah, could be that too.
I think so. Fraser was just spec'd out a truck for $220,000. It wasn't anything fancy.
Yeah. Wow. That's and so then the question is, can you actually afford that? And,
no, with the rates.
Yeah.
No.
The current rate, and we'll get to that shortly. But that raise of trucks, what is that going to impact the independent operator industry? I'll give you one spec. In 2016, I went to the Truck World, and I asked 2016, 18, whatever. Whenever I went to Truck World, I asked about 1,000 owner operators or independent operators do they have pollution control devices on their trucks? And 70% said they don't. Either they don't or not anymore. One of the two.
Yeah.
In there. And realistically, that means that when the pollution control devices came into the market, the independent operators were of the mindset that I can't, if there's something wrong with this thing, I can't afford to be the test subject whether this works or not.
Yep.
I'm keeping my old truck and I'm just rebuilding and rebuilding and rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
And that was back at the time where you could get a rebuild on an engine for $10,000-$12,000 pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays it's $30,000-$40,000 or plus. So that's one of the reasons why the inflation of rebuilding an engine went up so high is the pollution control device.
Mm-hmm.
So the owner-operators or the independent operators back then said, I'm not going to be the test subjects for this. I'm not going to spend that much more money into it. I'm just going to keep my old stuff. That was the mindset back then. So I think pretty much in 2027, the independent operator industry is going to be less and less and less in the new trucks. And I think from financing perspective, it's going to have to completely change the truck financing world. If you're looking for financing for a highway tractor for the future, there's going to be less and less individuals, real solid business people who are going to buy brand new trucks, and they're going to look for used ones, and it's primarily because of the price in there. So that's my impact, or that's what I believe the impact of the future, or our future is going to be, is independent operators are going to be doing that. I'd like to tell a little bit of a story. It's actually I have to cover it up a little bit so nobody knows some of the origins of this. But an individual about a year and a half ago got financing on a brand new truck. And the background of this individual was, first of all, he was an immigrant. Second of all, it was a brand new truck. They owned their own home, and they had equity in their home, and they had a good credit rating. And that's what got them into a truck, and it was a brand new truck, very little down, if not nothing down at all, and it's very little down. Fast forward a little bit. I think it was 14 months after he started, he actually took that truck and he parked it on the carrier's lot and threw the keys at the dispatcher and walked away. Now, what that actually did, I ended up calling the individual and basically asking why. And one of the reasons I got involved was, just 2 months before he handed it in was his first year end for his corporation, because he was our client. And I looked, I found out that he handed his truck in. And I thought, well, okay, maybe what I'll do is, maybe it was a terrible year or something like that. I'll look and find out. Maybe it was the wrong company, or maybe I can convince him otherwise. I'm going to find out about it. So I looked at his income statement for the year, and he made over $70,000 in that year as a single, like just a one driver. So he was at or slightly above national average. There was nothing wrong with what he was making. Well, why did the guy just suddenly cave like that? After interviewing the individual and also interviewing the carrier, I first determined that the carrier didn't do anything wrong. There was nothing that they did anything wrong. Like, he was actually doing pretty good financially at the carrier. The second thing was, though, the expectations of that driver was way higher than what reality was. And he certainly was not listening to either the carrier or even to us to some degree. Some of the choices and decisions he made, for instance, it was like he was expecting to take home $10,000 to $12,000 after all of expenses per month, but he was only, and we went through it all, and he was only taking home about somewhere between 8 and 9, which is significant.
That's decent. Yeah,
it's decent after all of his expense. That's with a brand new truck, by the way. We were a little bit negative on brand new trucks, so he was doing well. There was nothing wrong. But then, as I was interviewing, I was both interviewing him and also his wife. A few key issues came up. First of all, I found out they had about $50,000-$60,000 in a line of credit and credit card debt. Lots of debt that was outside of their mortgage, and they had about good $250,000 or almost $300,000 in a mortgage, and so they had a big mortgage, and they had lots of credit card and like a consumer debt, and I think the choice that they made to go into the independent as an owner operator was that, we need to make more money to pay down our debt and to get ahead, and because we can't make ends meet. And so they did that, and he said for the first 3 or 4 months there was lots of money. And when I looked through the month by month, yes, the first 3 months were you made pretty good, but the next 3 months you did pretty good too. And so did the next 3 months. And so I was looking through it, and he says, but after about 3 or 4 months, it was more tough. Then I find out they started spending money like crazy after about 3 months, because they see all of this cash. Well, now we have all this cash. They don't pay down their debt.
Right.
They just spent more. Their lifestyle just increased, And the closer they got to the end of the year, the more they realized they're not getting anywhere. And his stress level went through, and I think he made a whole bunch of commitments financially and stuff like this. And bottom line was he had super high blood pressure because of the stress, and he had a heart condition that initiated from that, and so he handed in the keys. And now I'm actually not even allowed to talk to him. I can only talk to the wife, because she says if you talk to him, his stress level goes too high. Just talk to me. And so realistically, the first thing, they were incorporated, and their understanding was, well, we're incorporated, we can walk away from it. And they got the debt from the corporation. I says, oh, no. I says, there isn't a single truck sold, leased or otherwise, today that I have ever heard of in the last 30 years that you don't sign a personal guarantee for that truck.
Right.
And I said, they will come back for your, for your home,
for the rest,
for your jet ski, anything that you have, your blender on your counter, if they can get it. It's expensive, of course. They're all doing that, but you personally signed for it. And so I was trying to convince them either to find somebody to take over that lease, or to get back into the truck and at least minimize his damage or something, because I was sort of mediating between the financing company and him. I wanted him not to have a $100,000-$200,000 smack in the face in 6 to 18 months from now, and but he was not in the mindset to that. He had lost confidence, severe confidence, and his expectations were so crushed that he had convinced himself that there is no money in the trucking industry, which the money that he wanted, there's probably not there. Yeah. But he could have made a good go of it. There was nothing wrong with what he was what he was experiencing, but his expectations were so high that they were not thinking. I'd maybe put 2% of the responsibility on the financing company. But not really, because when somebody wants something to be true, there's really not much that you can actually say to them to convince them that they're wrong, usually. Because if a person is desperate, they will only hear what they want to hear. They will not hear the truth, no matter how you put
And
it.
the thing is, he's been telling himself that could be the last 3 months already.
Yeah.
And once he's made up his mind,
Yeah.
there's no change.
There is no change.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a really sad situation, and I feel for the guy. For the next year and a half, he's going to suddenly realize that, oh my goodness, they may force the sale of my house or something along that lines. I approached them and I said, is there any way that you can come up with a certain amount of cash? And I said, just to go to the financing company and say, listen, this is all the equity that we have, and would you satisfy this situation? And they haven't got back to me yet with a dollar figure that they can get. Maybe they might get something, maybe they might not. But I said, you know what, if you can gather together 50, 60, 70 grand or something like that, and you approach the financing company and say, listen, this is more than what we're worth right now. Yeah. Would you settle this? And they might do something. You know, you never know. That's up to them to figure out. But realistically, if we put this into perspective, like in 2027, you got a $250,000
minimum,
truck valued out there, and I'm worried about some of the immigrants overestimating what being independent means. They come to Canada and they say, "Hey, I'm going to be my own business person here." Yeah. Everybody has to get into debt. This is the culture. This is whatever, and they believe the cultural lie that in order to get ahead, you have to get into so serious debt, and that means that you're going to get into so serious money too. You know, whereas the margins have basically eliminated success sometimes, and that's really sad. It's the entire independent operator industry have got to have a good old ice water splashed in their face and say, okay, now you're in a business here, and you have to realize the financing company or the carrier that you're on, or both, or a number of other people are not there to just make you money. And they're not on their side. They are there to make them money sometimes. Yeah. And you have to pick and choose the risk that you take. And there are some people who are, you know, they buy a $250,000 truck, but they put it onto a place that is so specialized that they can gain, you know, the high margins that other sectors don't have, and they can do really well. Yeah. I have clients who have brand new trucks that are doing exceptionally well, and now not everybody is willing to do what they do. Yeah, you know, they don't. No. But realistically, if you want to become an owner operator, an independent operator, you've got to, first of all, you have to know whether you're going to be a lease operator or an owner operator, because there's a big difference between the two. You have to know what you want to haul, where you want to haul. You know, all the different aspects of it. You got to know what you're getting into. If it's too blind getting into it, there's way too many ways to fail. So you got to think through what you're doing an awful lot more.
I've mentioned these people before, but friends of ours bought a truck in spring, $4,800 a month payments just on the truck, plus the mortgage, vehicle payments, and who knows what else. Now they're in a situation, I talked to them the day before yesterday. Now they're in a situation where their truck broke down on the way home last trip before Christmas. And
was it a brand new truck?
Brand new one. They found it, they made it to Freightliner, and the part that they need to fix the problem is nowhere in North America.
Oh yeah.
They have no idea when that truck's going to be back on the road.
Wow.
And so a friend of his found that part in the U.S. on eBay. So he phoned Freightliner, said he found a part on eBay. And they said, this is a warranty issue, and we cannot accept that.
Oh, my word.
So
How much was the part?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But it's an air leak that they can't get away from.
Oh.
The compressor doesn't stop running.
Oh, my word.
It somewhere between the compressor and the air dryer, I
Yeah.
think. But yeah, so now you're in that situation.
Yeah.
I know when a few years ago when that real DEF system came out, there was one of the drivers was sitting in Fargo. The truck was there for 3 months.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't get the parts.
Mm-hmm.
They were also nowhere in North America. There
Yeah.
was trucks all over
Yeah.
Manitoba here parked for the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got $4,800 a payment, and what do you do now?
Yes, you can talk to the financing company and tell them the situation, and they'll take that $4,800 and pop it to the end of your term, but you paying interest on that.
But
all
then
the
you,
way through.
oh yeah, you
Oh
pay.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, they don't have a
they make
problem
good
with
money on
doing that
Yeah,
too often.
it's nasty for sure.
But with you got to be realistic with the prices of these trucks. Like friends of ours were going to buy a new Volvo just a couple of months ago. They were in Winnipeg, took it for a ride, and they were going to order a new one. They had the last year's model, but they wanted the new one.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted, I think, 220, something like that, for it. 220. And they both said, like, they finally called us and said, hey, we're at Volvo, we're looking at this truck, and both of our stomachs are upside down.
Mm.
I said, run.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Run.
yeah.
I said, why are you buying a new truck? Well, this is going wrong. And he's not mechanically inclined for nothing for
Right.
that. And I said, why don't you learn how to fix stuff? He's got a shop. He's got a nice warm shop
Oh wow.
that he parks in. I said, like some of this little stuff you can do yourself. And so what would you guys do? I said, I wouldn't buy a new truck.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't. And they ended up, he says, well, we're going to go for lunch and then we'll think about it. And he said they went for lunch and they just drove home.
Good for that. Yeah, look at that.
I said,
That's good.
that's the right choice.
Yeah.
Good choice.
That's
yeah.
right. Like these friends too, they've never been owner-operators.
Yeah.
And I tried for months to get them into a used truck. And they would hear nothing of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time feeling sorry for you, but you want
If the trucks were half of what they are now, I might toy with the idea, you know.
right.
But to have $120,000 more tacked on there, and you're not getting any value. There is no
No.
value on it.
No.
Like in 2027, when they come out with this stuff, some of the stats in there is the since they came out with pollution control stuff, and they first came out in 1999 or 2000. That was the initial year. Since then, they have reduced emissions by 90%. Okay, which is very significant. I think the majority of it came in when they changed the fuel to low sulfur. Okay, that's probably the biggest the biggest change on there.
Yeah, but we blew more fuel into the air.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Because the fuel mileage went down a mile and a half to the gallon.
So I mean but 90% is significant. Now in 2027, when they're trying to nick down, down
The
to
last percentage?
the last 5,
Yeah.
10% or something
Yeah.
like that, and if it costs that much
Yeah.
to do that, the cost benefit is insane.
Yeah. No.
It is a direct affront to the trucking industry. They're trying to shut it down through emissions, and I don't think ultimately it cannot sustain itself.
No.
That means that the majority, or maybe not the majority, but a significant amount of carriers are not going to buy brand new trucks. They are going to start saying, okay, look, we're going to invest in this shop and that shop, and we are rebuilding, refurbishing older stuff.
Yep.
So it's going to be, and so that it's going to go down. It'd be less and less people buying brand new truck because they just can't afford it. Not just because of the money, but because they're not gaining any value for it.
I
It
talked
doesn't
to-
get any more fuel economy.
No.
You know?
No.
Yeah, I talked to a company owner a few Sundays ago, and they bought 10 brand new Peterbilts.
Mm.
And he said, we have to buy new trucks in order to keep drivers. He said they just demand new trucks.
Mm.
And he said, we are now in a situation, and I've been talking to my brother, and he's not listening. But he says, we are now to the point where his accountant actually came to him, not him, but his brother, and said, hey, you better put some money away because Christmas is here, and guys are going to take off between Christmas and New Year. You need some cash flow. He says he has depleted our company down to nothing.
Yeah.
And he said, if we have any kind of problem with these trucks,
Yeah.
he said, I don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. I think but that's a valid point when truck drivers are not going to drive for anything but a new truck.
Right.
It's going to split the driver pool, the available kind of drivers, you know. And when you get a carrier who focuses on one particular style or degree of a truck and really gets to know that one kind of truck, and that's all they buy, it's a used one, you know, and and so that they can totally redeck the thing so that it's a prize truck. Well, you can put $10,000-$15,000, deck it out awesome inside, and it's still the old thing.
Yep.
Like, I mean, you got an older truck. What is it?
05.
It's an 05. So you got a 20-year-old truck. But the thing is, a decked out showroom, okay?
Yeah.
You would have no problem a driver say, yeah, I'll drive that thing.
Yeah.
Because it's all beautiful inside too. So then carriers are going to say, okay, well, brand new ones, I can't, but I'll take the old ones and I'm going to deck the thing out so it's really nice inside.
Yep.
Get some custom, you hire a cabinet making guy and he makes his own stuff and it's all, custom. That's what's going to happen because people are like, carriers are not going to be able to solve this. Right now, the freight rates are very low, and they are maybe touching up and starting to trend up a little, but it's still very, very low. Nobody has reserves to buy new by 2027. Even in that report, it said nobody is saving up to buy 2026s so that they don't have to pay the 2027 because nobody has any money. Very few have any money. And so there was another phrase in there where it says, we're going to continue with their updating our models in our regular cycle. So it's not going to make any difference to them. Like if they're going to buy new, well, they're going to just pay the extra if that. So maybe to some extent, some people are guessing maybe that big jump in price is not going to be there because the EPA regulations are going to be thrown out because of Trump, and that I can see that could work like that because it's that big of a blow to the trucking industry. 10 or 15%. If they can eliminate that, someone just has to tell Trump that, and he'll reverse it because there's huge changes going to be coming to the EPA. There's just no way to get around that.
I think to Donald Trump's credit, I think he knows how the EPA is, because he's talking about coal, bringing back coal and oil, and he knows that that's not the best way to go. But you can either bankrupt the country, or you can have some sort of production, and that, as far as I'm concerned, that's a good way. If you're making money, and with the focus on, let's see how we can do it better. That's smart to me. Yeah. I don't have a problem with all of this EPA, but like you were saying before, that last 2% of carbon efficiency or whatever. That's the most costly to get out. Like, when you're going from 5 miles to the gallon to 6 miles a gallon, there's a really significant savings there.
Yeah, $1,000.
When you go from 8 to 9, that margin is very skinny. You're not making that much more money.
Yeah.
So and it's just reflects the same way up there. And to cash flow $250,000 on the rates,
Well, it can't be on the rates. I know the rates are going to come up.
They'll have to.
They have to
Yeah.
because they have been low for so long.
Yeah.
And there's the first day of Trump's inauguration. He's going to say, "Drill, baby, drill." Everything.
Mm-hmm.
And already they have already started to open up things in the oil and gas. Even though, how do I say this? There is no formal proclamation of drill, baby, drill. Everybody knows that it's coming, so now they're starting to pick off and getting ready for the drill, baby, drill.
They're getting all the they're filling all the tanks and getting ready to go to work.
Yeah,
they're pumping out pipe like crazy in Texas.
Yeah. So I mean, it is coming. So once that fully implements, the trucking industry is going to start to boom again. We're already right at the shouldn't say capacity, but it used to be that the supply was way more than demand in the trucking industry. Now it's not that demand is higher than supply, but it's very equal. So there's certain industry segments that are doing better, significantly better, and others that still not doing good, but there's positive pressure that's being come, and the closer it comes to Trump, and the closer it comes to some of the sweeping reforms that he's going to bring in, like a lot of actually the crap that has come on in the last 4 years is all executive order from Biden, and all that can be reversed in a couple of pen strokes.
Well, the fuel went up $1.50 a gallon when Biden took over.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to come down. That's another thing.
That will change because of the pipeline, yeah.
Yeah. Canada's dollar, which is right now somewhere around 70 cents.
It's
it's very
42.
low. It's going to go down lower yet.
You think?
Oh, it will, because we are tied very close to the oil. When oil goes up, we go up. When the oil goes down, we go down. We're one of the highest producing oil places in the world, in the top 3 or 4. Okay, I think it was Saudi Arabia that was first, or Russia that was first, one of the two. No, Saudi Arabia. Then it was Venezuela. I had those on Facebook. It has from 1956, and then it would slowly, you can do that with songs. You can do it with whatever. I see just the other day the oil producing ones. Canada was always right at the top. It was a high producer of oil. So one of our biggest exports is oil. Yeah. And so when oil goes up, our dollar goes up. When oil goes down, our dollar goes down. So when drill baby drill comes in, it's going to bring oil from basically whatever it's $80, $90. It'll bring it down to probably 50-ish, and somewhere in there.
And that'll bring the exchange rate down too.
Yeah, and it'll bring it. They're projecting about 65 cents. Which is extremely low, but there's a few other things involved in there. It has to do a lot with their debt and stuff like this, but it's not good. But it's good for exports because they'll buy our stuff. All that's if there is some province or the federal government doesn't do the border securing like we should be doing, and tariffs does come in because of it. It'll affect. It's not going to affect super much because realistically, our dollar's going to go down, and we get paid in. It's going to end up being very similar. But anyway, it's just buying from the States. It's going to be big.
And that's where we're feeling it too. There's a lot of freight going down, but it's hard pressed to get back.
Yeah, that's because of our. It could very well be very unfortunate in the future if it goes down to 65. You're trying to get back from the United States. Is brutal.
Nobody can afford to buy anything out of this.
Well, that's just it, right? At 42%,
it's
depending on what it is, but
it's pretty sad.
Yeah,
for sure. What are your thoughts on? Well, we talked about Trump before, and that was a good. I love talking about Trump and the effects of it. He's now talked about buying Greenland, and also Canada being the 51st state.
Yeah.
And also taking back Panama Canal.
Panama Canal. Yeah.
That's right.
So I think he's pretty much trolling the world. He's just poking everybody's buttons.
Yeah.
And just which is people have to not take it so blasted personal.
Oh, did you see the House of Commons the other day?
No,
My goodness, they were just steaming.
Just build the border the way they want it to be built, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
You know, Canada has one of the most porous borders in the world. Our immigration system was horrible.
Yeah.
It's like we had a great system, then somebody got drunk somewhere, and just like everything was, and you could come and go and do it, and like it was just a porous nightmare. And if China wanted to get fentanyl into the United States, just bring it into Canada and ship it down.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, that's really happening.
Yeah, I mean that's
Oh,
how they.
big time.
I mean, goodness sakes, if they want to shut down fentanyl, if Trump wants to, wants to do that, it needs Canada's cooperation.
Absolutely.
In order to do it.
And Mexico.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and realistically, like, come on, it should have been our like our kids are dying too. We know. I know a friend whose son died, and it was just a really bad situation. Shouldn't say innocent, but he was very close to, just an innocent bystander, and fentanyl kills in Canada just as much,
Yeah.
And so realistically, we have to shut our border down, but we have far too much protection on the Vancouver port and Montreal port or whatever. Those things are so owned by unions and special interests and all sorts of stuff. It has to be cleaned up by the government, because that's a federal issue. That is not a Vancouver issue. That's not a Montreal issue. That's a federal issue. We have stuff coming into our country.
Yeah.
And our federal government has to protect us.
But these containers are not. They're not checked.
No, they're not screened properly.
Like they're bringing in anything and everything, and they come from the ship. They go straight on the truck and go wherever.
Yeah.
There's
only less than 1% or something like that gets checked.
Like even coming across the border. Like, how often do you get called in and they check your truck? It never.
Yeah. What was it? There was quite a few years back. They had the vac truck, vacs. What are you vac? Those screening trucks.
Oh yeah.
They used to have them going into Canada in the summertime, and there was quite regular that they'd scan you and make sure everything was good.
Yeah.
That hasn't been I haven't seen them up for at least 4 years.
Yeah.
Down in Pembina, it's the major one here in Manitoba. It used to be taking a truck through there. They have this. Sorry, you drive through a barn. You still do that?
Yes, they still do that. Yeah, that's
Virtually never.
not very often.
Oh, really?
I think the only time is I would imagine if you're not a Manitoba trucking company.
Oh.
Okay. Like if you're an out of province or an American, I think, or a low, it does randomly, but I have not been picked randomly. But whatever. No, it is still used, but not near
Mostly
like what
brown
it used to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly. I haven't gone through there in probably 10 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, it's.
Oh.
That's been a long time.
Well, that's our responsibility. Well, that's a federal government responsibility.
Yes.
That we
Yeah.
should do
Yeah.
that. Now,
Yeah.
the whole aspect of Canada being the 51st state, there's also this thing that Kevin O'Leary is doing. He's going down to Mar-a-Lago and trying to bring together Canada and the United States like the European unions have, where there's borderless and stuff like that. You can free and clear and stuff. I like that idea. But that would mean that Canada would lose its own currency. And I think what he's saying is we would take on the U.S. dollar. And I'm okay with that. How would we do Canada pension plan? Oh, that's a big problem. No. Okay, France has their own.
Yeah.
France has their own stuff.
Yeah,
Well, it could be set up that
Yeah.
it's Canada is its own state, so this state of Canada
Yeah.
would have its own pension plan.
State, country, district.
District, yeah.
So it can be managed separately for sure.
But every country, even in Europe, still has their own rules.
Yeah.
Like I said before, the trucking in Europe, across Europe, I think is the same. Every country has the same rules. Because I talked to a driver that had gone over 5 countries, and he was a long way from home, and the same rules apply to every country.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. That's nice.
but a lot of the rules would still like even every state has their own rules on
Yeah.
some issues
Mm-hmm.
in the U.S.
On
So-
provinces too.
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't mind being a 51st state.
Yeah.
Man, I'd be running between Florida and Texas in the winter
Yeah,
time.
that would.
Yeah, that would.
That would be. Yeah, it would change. Then would we be able to interstate? I guess that would be the big question.
Yeah.
Because that's where the real money is. That's
Mm-hmm.
it's generally about 10 to 20% higher margins in the states.
You know, one
than
thing I
Canada,
can't figure out,
generally. Anyway.
talking about that, the guys down south, when they come north, let's say come across the border, their freight is much higher in the wintertime coming north.
Mm-hmm.
Why does our freight not go up in the wintertime? Because your expenses go up like crazy.
Mm-hmm. I know. Over the years, I haven't talked to anybody specifically about that. There was a few years back I talked to guys, and they had and were hauling loads that went into Canada, but they brokered it. They found a broker that they'd drop it off in Fargo or Grand Forks, and they didn't want anything to do with Canada running up north.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I can only imagine. Yeah, it's just because our roads.
Yeah.
Who wants to drive our roads for just a little bit more money? Like,
Terrible.
Nah, just drop it off. Let somebody else deal. There was one guy. He didn't want to do it because he couldn't cross. He couldn't cross the border. So he said, I don't care. Whatever. Just take it here. But the few that they didn't even want to come up here.
Yeah.
But
It's. Well, if we were in the States, I don't think, unless there's if it's a very rare commodity, a very rare thing that you're hauling up, and you need highly specialized talent or abilities or equipment or something like that, most United States carriers are not interested in Canadian freight.
no.
Canadian freight companies are very interested in United States freight.
Yes.
For
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
You know,
You
but
see
the
them
other
more
way around.
running in and out of Vancouver or Toronto, out east there. But from Toronto to here,
No.
not a whole lot of Americans coming in here.
No, that's for sure. So, no, it's
Yeah, across the prairies,
interesting
you don't
times that
see
we live in.
a
It's
lot.
just really fascinating. Fascinating times that we.
There will definitely be a lot of changes now.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm hopeful that Canada will too, in a significant way. In order for there to be a U.S. Like a deal, like a European Union kind of a thing, first of all, the right government has to be in, the right government party has to be in. And I don't think the Liberal Party has any kind of credibility, probably for the next 10 to 15 years at least.
Yep.
They have so burnt their bridges. Everybody in Canada has been holding their breath for about a year, just waiting for the next election, and because they kind of like the last election, which was basically about almost 3 years ago, or a little over 3 years ago. They timed that sucker to say, okay, now we're going to do it really, and they just barely got in. And any time after that, they would have lost.
Yeah.
All the way through. So realistically, they were pooched, and they knew they were pooched, still are pooched.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a big swing when the next election, whether that's going to be in spring or whether that's going to be in fall, I don't know. There's just there's too many shenanigans to. You don't believe anything anybody says anymore. Like I remember probably about 6 months ago when Jasmeet Singh says that's okay, and he rips up the and he says we're not in agreement with the Liberals anymore. And everybody says, "Oh, election."
Yeah.
No way! Just because he rips a piece of paper doesn't mean that because he knows he's going down the tubes with the Liberals anyway. So that was just for show. So now he's threatening. I'm going to call an election. That's just words again.
Yeah.
The guy is so unbelievably prepared. I've heard, and this is from the internet, so it's got to be true. So,
Yes, that's right.
So, but I mean, the Liberal Party are basically about $12 million in debt. No, not the Liberal. NDP. Did I say Liberal?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, NDP are $12 million in debt. Okay. And the Liberals are also in debt, not maybe as much. Or no, they have, I think, $300,000. They don't have enough money to do a federal election. Okay. Now they can borrow money, and do, but how do I say this? To get funding, to get a federal election through. I don't know what it costs to do a federal election for a party, but I know that the Conservatives, for instance, whatever, they have $6-8 million or something. They have unbelievable amount of money comparatively to anyone. Now, money doesn't determine whether you're going to win or lose or
It sure helps.
It sure helps, though. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, the NDP and the Liberal, they just don't have the money to do anything. And it's sort of like they're only planning and they're only positioning themselves. They're only thinking a week to 2 weeks ahead of time. They're not thinking long term or anything like that. So no, they're going to stay in power probably for as long as they possibly can because they know they're going to get shellacked.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, they know that.
I'm probably 70% sure it'll be an October election because they just going to. But by then, people are going to be so ticked off, and we've been holding our freaking breath for a year, and we're tired of this already. You know,
I guess it's possible they're thinking, you know what? If we're going to lose this election, we can ride it out as long as possible. If we lose from between 30% or 40%, really doesn't matter. We've lost anyway.
Yeah.
So, if we're going to lose, we might as well hang on to power I don't know.
They're saying that Jasmeet Singh is waiting for his pension.
That's what I've heard.
I don't know. I don't know how much. I also heard, and this is in my opinion, this is propaganda from the right, not from the left. Okay?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
They said that Jasmeet Singh is worth $72 million.
Whoa!
I don't know if you've seen that.
I don't know much
Facebook
about
or whatever
him.
it was.
Yeah.
And I'm saying unfathomable BS. Come on, guys.
You can't.
There's no way that Jasmeet Singh is worth that much money. They said he was poor when he came in, and now he's worth $72 million. Unfathomable crap. You can't have. He's waiting for a few $1,000 a month pension
check.
and be worth $72 million at the same time. It's just propaganda. Like unbelievable stuff. Everybody says that the far left lie, which they do, like fabulously, unbelievably flowery lies. But the right does too. The example. Some of the examples that they said there was one, and this is from the United States, and I commented on it, and the post disappeared. I don't know who was, but they said on such and such a date, Nancy Pelosi bought Tesla stock. 2 days later, Congress passed this bill that gave Tesla huge amounts of money in subsidy things. And then 2 days later, Nancy Pelosi sold her Tesla stock. Okay, and that's why she's worth all these millions of dollars. Okay, I took those 3 dates. You go online and take a look at Tesla stock during that time. Tesla stock was here on the first date, and then when she sold, it was down.
So it doesn't work.
It doesn't even work. So these liars weren't even thinking through what they were doing. And I said, well, take a look. The stock was worth so much on this day, so much on this day.
Yeah.
And she lost money. What are you saying? And then, boop, that whole thing disappeared. I couldn't find it afterwards. But, I mean, I rarely comment on stuff like that because you have no idea whether it's true or not. You have so many stuff coming out of thin air, But anyway, that's a fabulous little rabbit trail. But anyway, that being said, it's interesting now that we're in the new year, 2025. I think there's an awful lot of new stuff that's going to be coming on. A lot of changes globally. Some things that have happened in the last 3 or 4 months, actually for the last year. If you take a look at what from October 2023, when Israel was attacked, remember from Gaza, there, till now, what has happened to Hezbollah, to
Al Qaeda?
Not Al Qaeda. What's Hezbollah is in Jordan. Hamas in Gaza, and Houthis and Syria and Iran. Those 5 basic enemies of Israel. What has happened to them? They have 3 of them basically. There's in Gaza the Hamas. 23 out of the 24 divisions or deployments or leadership groups, not divisions of Hamas or whatever. They've been either killed or captured. 23 out of 24. They're just gone. And then Hezbollah in Jordan has, with those beepers,
Oh yeah.
they just demolished the leadership, and then they demolished the rockets, and then they went into Syria and demolished a whole bunch of their rockets in there, and then what's his name? The tall guy in Syria, Assad or whatever. He was ousted out of there, and now with the Houthis in Yemen, they're being demolished not bit by bit, but fair bit there, and Iran is running out of money, and they're back on their heels, and they're backing up, and they can't even retaliate for some of the stuff. That's amazing. That I'm a little bit. Have you ever watched the stuff on the 6-Day War of Israel?
I've watched a few documentaries. Yeah.
I love the story. Like all the things that they did. Like in the first 3 hours of the 6-Day War, they demolished 260 or 280 enemy aircraft, and then they had make sure that everybody's airstrips are bombed, so that those that did make it in the air couldn't land, and so they had to eject out and lose their planes. It was like the first 3 or 4 hours determined the entire thing, and they just took over massive amount, just roll. And it's certainly not the same thing like the 6-Day War, okay? Because it's been obviously it's been whatever 14 months or 15 months or whatever it is, but the results are similar. Like you have Israel devastating 4 or 5 major enemies, and you can't say that it's the United States that did it.
No,
you can't say that, because it was almost in spite of what Biden
they were
did.
Not a positive.
They did remarkable. Like just those beeper bombs.
Oh,
that was
they took out a lot of big shots.
Like, who could have thought that? Like, I mean, just who would want to join that? Well, here's your beeper. No, that's okay. Just let's go back to pigeons.
I'll
write my note on the pigeon's leg. It's some of the brilliant things that are going on and around the world, and we're going to see huge changes. I don't know. I would give it maybe a 30 to 40% chance that the Ayatollah, like the leaders in Iran, are going to be overturned.
Yeah, they will be.
You think so?
Yeah, there's already an uprising in Iran.
Yeah, like I think the people of Iran actually do not want their leadership. They have no choice.
And the only funding they have is from the Americans, and that's going to stop when Trump gets in.
Yeah. So
because Trump said when he was in from 2016 to 2020, Iran was broke.
Yeah.
And they only got money from Biden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as soon as they cut off the funding for Ukraine, well, that's going to end the war too, because they got nothing more.
Yeah. It's there's a lot that's going to change really quickly. Yep. Can you imagine? The majority, because now the people in Jordan, I have an ex-client who used to be our client. He moved to Jordan. I haven't talked to him in a while.
I actually
you
just
know him.
texted with him about 2 days ago.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What did he, is he done with all the bombing?
You know what?
Where is he?
They're right in Jordan. I don't know exactly the location.
They're not in Beirut, though, are they?
I don't.
I think just
so.
outside.
Yeah,
maybe
they're right close. I think he said he was close to the sea there somewhere. From his balcony he could see the Israeli border.
Oh,
and he wasn't far from the ocean. Or
my.
the Reds.
The Mediterranean.
Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway. Yeah. So, but the last thing I texted him the other day was, so how are you guys still doing okay? He says, yeah, right now, he says they say Jordan is the safest place to live. He has no questions about how safe he is right now.
Right now.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. But did he mention anything about how many rockets they blew up? Like Israeli blew up?
No, we didn't go that far. No,
because there was a lot of bombs that were dropped in there, and they cleared out a lot, like 25,000, 30,000 rockets. They cleared out. Israeli cleared out
in Jordan.
In Jordan, yeah. Basically, Jordan was ruled by Hezbollah. That they had a government, but Hezbollah basically called the shots on everything.
Yeah.
And from what it sounds like, the head of the snake was so taken off that the people of Lebanon, which are generally a nice people, like good, well behaved people, they are free. They are free now because they're not influenced by Hezbollah anymore.
Which is the Muslim group that took over Damascus?
Oh, in Syria? It's sort of a dog's breakfast of ISIS and a whole bunch of
those guys
the
are still
bad
around?
guys. Yeah. And all the bad players. ISIS. What's that? What's the ISIS? Al Qaeda guys. Yeah, they're bad. They're bad players,
right?
But they have nothing there anymore. Like Israelis, before they took everything, the Israelis took out all of their rockets and their defense systems and everything. They couldn't defend themselves at all. And I think, and I don't know the timing. I'm just sort of guessing at this. But when Israeli took everything all out, bombed everything, that's what made Assad vulnerable, and that's why these guys came in, and then he's gone. So
he couldn't defend himself.
He couldn't defend himself. He was
against his own people.
So now these people, they take stuff over, and they're quote unquote they're terrorists, and well, they are terrorists, not quote unquote, but they're terrorists. But they only have guns, and guns. You need rockets, and you need sophistication in order to do stuff.
At least a good slingshot.
Yeah. So it has changed so much. Like drones have made a huge difference in war. Like I was talking before, like we were going to have AI wars, and there's going to be wars, but there's going to be like this drone against this drone, and boom, like there's going to be
some big drones, like the ones that were over New Jersey.
Yeah, they're like vans,
they're the size of cars.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So, there's some significant stuff going on, but it's going to change the world.
Yeah.
I'm also pretty bullish on a couple other things, like Venezuela. I don't think that guy's going to be The clock is ticking on that guy, that dictator, because all of a sudden Trump's going to say, "Okay, anybody who buys anything from Venezuela, you are now SOL, and we're going to come after you." So their money is going to immediately dry up, and so he's going to take his billions, run off, and be exiled somewhere, and Venezuela will get their country back, and which getting their country back, that reminds me of Argentina. It's the story of Argentina. That's going to be in the history books for 150 years, and it's going to be very, very similar to what happened in Israel. Have you ever read? No, I guess Bibi Netanyahu, Benjamin.
Yeah,
he came out with a book a number of years ago. I got it in my library, Audible or whatever. And he said, like, Israel used to have 150% inflation, hyperinflation. The whole thing is you're just financially, because they were a very, very socialist country when they first started in 1948. Almost communism, but very socialist. And Bibi, what Netanyahu did was he opened it up to the free market system through various steps. And that revolutionized Israel's economy, and now they're actually a very wealthy country.
Oh yeah,
they're just unbelievably wealthy.
Yep.
And there's what they did in Israel is what Javier Milei, if I'm saying his name right or whatever, Milei, what he's doing in Argentina, where basically you get the government out of the way. And to open up the free market system, they were whatever 200% inflation or more or less, something like that in Argentina.
It was ridiculous.
It was just insane. And within 1 year, it's down to 2.9%.
Whoa,
they're less than what we are.
Yeah,
and their economies it grew whatever 3.9% or it was some. It was like that big of a change in 1 year. Well, now he did radical chainsaw stuff. What are they? Yeah. Ole, ole. That's not the right where he says, "Ufta," not "ufta." Oh, whatever they say in Spanish. I'm butchering this, but he says, "Out of it. We don't need it. We don't need it. We don't." And he cut it down from 18 down to 8 ministries or in the government or whatever.
That's going to happen in the U.S. now too.
Yeah, what's his name? Musk said he wants to bring it down to 99 from 450 down to 99. Oh goodness sakes! When I heard that, man, I pushed back the tears. It was wonderful. It's a wonderful.
Terrific.
If Canada can do that, man.
Yeah.
Boy, do we need that because other than that, we're going to go over a cliff. Financially, there's just no other way.
You can't sustain.
What's been going on.
Well, what did they say in Washington D.C. alone? There was like 140-some thousand government workers, just in Washington D.C. That's crazy.
Ottawa's just loaded with.
Did you hear yesterday? Biden was nominated the worst president. The worst
president?
No, not president. Oh goodness. I was going to say it before, and I forgot what it was. He was the worst. Voted the worst something, government official or something. I forget exactly what they said. I thought
he could be a worst of a lot of things.
Yeah. Biggest liar. Yeah.
It's strange. It's bizarre.
The way my boss has been talking, things are going to get quite a bit busier now, starting January.
Yeah.
So
that sounds good. That sounds good.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think everybody has been chomping, especially in Canada. We've been basically flatlined since about summer of 2022. So it's been 2.5 years. That's it's not a recession. It's just a flat line. We just people hand to mouth. Yeah. We were talking about that one guy, the one trucker who was making $70,000 in a year.
Mm-hmm.
He was on percentage. If it's normal, because this has been real low freight rates, he would have made probably close to 90 to 100 grand, maybe even 105, 110 at the most, or something like that. But he could make an awful lot more if he just waited out. In there. But
when you got that kind of debt, it's hard to wait out. You gotta make a decision.
Yeah.
Like guys like us, we can sit back and say, we can, whatever.
Yeah.
We can weather a lot of storm.
And we're still making money because we don't. It doesn't all go into payments.
Yeah.
But the guys who are tough, they just have to hold on a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And of course, we've been saying that now for a year and a half, 2 years.
Well, you know what? The interesting part, and I think I've mentioned this. I know I've mentioned this before. I said, when I got into trucking, you had all my numbers. You knew I knew how to work. I knew how to do my stuff. I just phone in. How am I doing? Yeah, keep at it. Okay. Point it forward, Yeah. And there's a lot of times when a truck driver is trying to check all of the boxes themselves, you just get burnt out. You've got to have someone in your corner. Yeah, this is good. Maybe check into this. You've got to have someone to give you advice where, you know what, now is not a time to buy a truck. You know what, that is probably the wrong thing to do right now. It's not off the table, but right now it's not the right thing to do, But if, like you said, if he's making $70,000-$80,000 in this section of the market, the way the market is right now, in 2 years, he would have he'd be further into paying off the truck, and then the industry turning around, that he was setting himself up for a fairly decent
rebound.
Nice. But the thing is, you can't let that. You've got to be careful on how it takes your emotions.
Yeah.
Because after a long week of being gone, and you come home, and there's still bills, a guy just gets burnt out. Like, I can't do it. Yes, you can. Yeah, you can do it. You got it.
I went through dry times for 15 years. I was upside down for 15 years financially, and it permanently scarred me. That I'll more than likely never get remotely under a situation like that again.
Right.
But how do I say this? I'm not enduring. I'm not persevering. I think sometimes I'm stupidly stubborn, and my stupidly stubborn sometimes lands on prudence. I just wouldn't give up. And it wasn't so much that I was bright, but I don't know how to give up.
Yeah.
And
that
was more, I shouldn't say luck, but it was just because there were some things that I hung on to.
Yeah.
That I hung on to way too long.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, stupidly stubborn isn't always a bad trait. If your foundation, if you've been counseled and your foundation is good. This is a working model. You don't have to know a whole lot. You just have you have to be the last one to quit, and then you've won.
Yeah.
You just no.
Trump's a very good example of that.
Yeah,
like his comeback from oblivion. Like, oh my goodness, that again.
Yeah.
He's going to be in the history books for 200 years.
Yeah,
and there's no one who's going to touch him.
Yeah.
In that regards, I don't.
And you know what? Even him. There's some key foundations and things that he has right that he doesn't compromise on.
Yeah.
Right.
But
But he's got good people behind him too.
Yes. He surrounds
he
himself
did before
with
too.
He
but more now than before.
Yeah, Yeah, he's not afraid of different counsel.
Correct.
He's always looking for.
Yep.
He knows that he doesn't have all the answers.
Right.
And that is cool,
But to be open to correction or advice,
Yeah.
well, that's wise. That's wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
No,
That's for sure. Anyway, we want to thank you for joining our podcast today, and I hope you enjoy it. And by all means, if you want us to talk about a particular subject, just email me, and we will pick it up whenever we can get these guys at the same
back in the
same barn at the same time to discuss the next bunch of topics or so. All right, have a great trip.
Thanks for stopping by Making Your Miles Count. For further Making Your Miles Count productions, call us at 877-987-9787 or download us at makingyourmilescount.com.